Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to my studio. This is Paint with Lovejoy. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you're here for the first time, awesome. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you're here for a second, third, or fourth time, thank you so much for coming back and continuing your painting process. In today's painting, this is going to be a Georgia O'Keeffe painting and a bit more of, I guess we would call it an advanced beginner, because we're going to go work on more wet on wet blending and work in smaller sections and move our way across the canvas. So if you are a first time painter, I would recommend that you try some of my other videos geared towards first time painters, get comfortable with the process, and then when you're a little more comfortable with holding the brush and mixing your paint, then try this video, because it might be a little too much for this being your first painting. So with that being said, this is going to be diving into more of the wet on wet blending and more brush control for these Georgia O'Keeffe paintings. So what you're going to see in the description box below is a link to a supply kit. And in that supply kit is all the paint, brushes, canvas, everything that you need to get started painting for this project. What you're also going to see in the description box below is a link to what I call a traceable. And a traceable is a way to get that initial composition on your canvas before you start painting. And you would transfer it using carbon paper or graphite paper. You also have the option that you can pause the video where that traceable image shows up and draw what you see on your canvas. So there's information in the description box below. Whichever method works for you, make that happen, and then pick up the video for the painting portion. With this video and any video that I create, you have full permission to deviate from the instruction. If you want to change out colors, if you want to do something different, it's just important that you actually paint. All right, and no matter what you do today, just have fun, get lost in the process of painting, and just kind of forget about the world for a little bit. So enough talking, let's jump into the painting process. Alright guys, this is going to be another fun Georgia O'Keeffe abstract painting, perfect to get comfortable with blending. So gather your supplies, transfer your traceable to your surface, and as always, make sure you take your progress photos. Now on mine, I went over my traceable lines with a black Sharpie marker for those of you at home that are going to draw what you see. You do not have to do that. So we're going to start off with light blue first, and that is white with a touch of blue, and we're going to kind of fill in that bottom left-hand corner. Then I'm going to grab just a little bit of the darker blue, make it kind of a medium blue, and we're placing this just kind of in specific areas and then using light pressure, blending that darker blue into the lighter blue. And you can even move down to the smaller brush. Now as we go through the painting today, we're going to go from the left-hand side, make our way around to the right-hand side, and we're going to be working with kind of three main colors, the little pastel colors. A light blue, a light pink, and a light purple, along with a few accent colors. So as you go along the video, I want you to just to observe where I place each of these colors and where I place the darker color into it to blend, and just mimic that to the best of your ability at home. This is a video more for my advanced beginners, not necessarily my first time painters, just because you're working in smaller spaces and a little bit more brush control to develop your skills. So again, you saw where I put the light blue on. Now we went with the medium blue. Wipe that brush off, and with light pressure, you go back and blend that darker color into your base color. And you can, like I said earlier, switch and use the smaller brush as needed. And as we go through this process, you're actually going to see me use two different brushes, actually three different brushes. I use a different flat brush for each, the light pink and the blue, so I don't have to keep changing out, cleaning the brushes a lot and changing the water. So if you have extra brushes at home, feel free to utilize that concept as well. So again, we made that light pink, white with a tiny, tiny amount of red. We laid it on the top there and on this left-hand side, and we are blending that in slightly with the light blue. And again, you do want light pressure as you blend the two colors. And if you are using student grade paint, I recommend that you apply your paint thicker to make the blending a little bit easier. And if you want, you can even complete this painting. It was originally done in watercolors. You can complete it with other materials and just use this as a guideline. All right, so now we're moving into our light purple. And I am using that small pointy brush. It is white with a little bit of purple. If your purple is lighter or darker than mine, totally okay. And if you notice, as what I just did, it wasn't dark enough. So if you apply your paint to the canvas and need to go back and apply more or apply darker, go right ahead and do that. With painting, you're constantly kind of just adjusting your color and learning more and more each time you paint. So with that kind of light purple, even a little bit of the darker, more straight purple there, and blending it in, you'll notice as we move along this painting, a small amount of pigment is going to go a long way in these light pastel colors. So you'll see where we grab the direct red and blue and purple and orange, and I think even green. Um, a little bit of this pigment into the base colors that we're blending them in will go a long way. And that's a good thing for this video, just for you to get kind of comfortable with your mixing of your colors. So went back to that kind of a medium pink with this one and just adding more to kind of right on top of that line and blending it into the lighter pink. And if you need to, as you're doing your blending, after you've put the darker color in there and you need to go back with the lighter, feel free to go back and forth. So just kind of grabbing more of that light purple now, switching, blending it into that light blue base. And like I said earlier, I am moving fairly quickly through this video and even through the painting. Don't feel like you have to go as fast as I'm going, but you do want to work with your paint while it's wet. So if you need to even just work in smaller sections than what this is, go at your pace. With that being said, this is a painting that you could do multiple times. As you get more comfortable with the painting process, um, your blending skills will improve. So you could do this painting now and then do it in a couple of months, do it in a year, and it'll be even easier, and you can bring in those skills that you just keep on learning into each painting. So now again, we're going back to that light pink, kind of filling in these little details. Um, I'm going to go ahead and throw some light purple on there, and then we'll be going in with our darker elements in a moment. And we are taking that kind of light to medium purple on the left-hand side of these elements. We'll be adding a bit more red to them later on. And again, just kind of pulling that purple into the pink using that light pressure. If you are inclined to finger paint, that's very therapeutic and tactile, so feel free to give that a try. And again, you're just getting comfortable with mixing paint together and the transition and gradations that they make. So still using that light purple, moving in just to fill in even more of the space. In this particular area on the painting, on the original Georgia O'Keeffe, there was a lot of kind of high and low contrast colors in here. So we're kind of putting in the low contrast colors, and then we'll put the higher, darker pigments in a moment. Now, again, as I stated earlier, you're just observing where I place each of these colors and mimicking that to the best of your ability. You are strengthening your power of observation while you do this. And if you do pull up the original painting of Georgia O'Keeffe, I believe it's titled Music, Pink and Blue, and you can look at what she painted, and if you see something on her painting that I did not include in mine, feel free to include it on yours. Either one that you're looking at, you are still strengthening your power of observation. All right, so here you can see where we've been putting the direct purple into the light purple, and then again using that light pressure to blend it into that base. And now we're going to move into a bit darker pink, not quite the red, but kind of going for about a medium pink, and putting it again on the edge of these little organic shapes and blending them into the base colors. Now, I did forget to mention, if you are holding your breath or if you are finding that your brush is kind of shaky as you go to apply your paint, that means you're holding your breath. So you do want to breathe while you're painting. It is to your benefit. And if you exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas, that will make it a little bit easier, especially as you're working in some of these tight spaces, like adding this red to the edge. And red's another one of those colors where you'll find out that a tiny amount of that pigment will carry you a long way. So your um, brain is learning a lot as you work in these small, tight spaces and get comfortable with the blending. Your muscles are learning a lot. Like I said, you can paint this multiple times and learn something new each time. Art is more about the process of just creating and going through the process of creating rather than what your final outcome is going to look like, because your final outcome will change with each painting that you do. All right, so now going in with that dark purple, that straight purple, just increasing that contrast and intensity. And then sometimes I've noticed that I'll wipe off the excess paint of my brush and then go back and blend. That helps if you get a lot of buildup on there, and it helps from uh, contaminating kind of that base color and getting too much of the pigment in there. With that being said, if you end up getting too much of a color somewhere, you can wipe it off with a paper towel and then reapply the appropriate colors. Painting is not an exact science. There's a lot of wiggle room in here. And that's why I said earlier, it's just more important that you go through the process of painting rather than having a perfect outcome every time. So here you can see we're adding the white, doing the same type of blending and using just kind of short, choppy brush strokes as we work in this tight area. And again, feel free to pause the video whenever you need to, observe what you see, and then mimic that on your canvas. You guys are doing a great job. I'm really proud of you. This is definitely a great painting to practice your blending, and also nice that it is abstract. So if you deviate from what we're doing here, totally okay. If you end up creating something brand new, totally okay. Like I said, I just want you to paint. I just want you to find a creative outlet for yourself. So again, that light pink going in with the dark red, using that light pressure. Again, remember to exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas, and it'll make it a little bit easier to make some of these small lines. And then again, that light pressure as you wipe the brush off and go back over the areas you just applied. All right, and adding a little bit more of the darker or a light pink into, I guess, the center design. It is very organic looking, so sometimes it's hard to tell what to call certain lines or certain particular shapes. All right, and you have seen every now and then pause the video, take your progress photo. I highly stress the importance of that because it's one of the few times that we can visually document our learning process. So get in that groove anytime that you are doing something creative. All right, and here you can see we switched into a new color. We're using that light orange, white with just a tiny amount of orange in there. Same thing, laying that base down, and then we'll go in with some of the darker orange for the contrast area. I like to try to keep with one skill, one kind of main objective with each painting, and just kind of build on that. And again, this painting and a couple of the other Georgia O'Keeffe paintings are just great for getting comfortable with your blending. All right, so same thing, adding that direct orange, wiping off the brush, and then with your light pressure, smoothing that into your base light orange. And the technical term for the blending that we're doing today is called wet on wet blending. We're putting that wet original base on there, and then we're introducing new colors on top of it. All right, so still sticking with that light orange. And as you go through the painting today, if you need to mix a color more than one time and it's a little bit of a variant shade, that's okay. Don't stress on getting the exact same shade every single time. That will come with more and more practice. All right, you guys are doing a great job. This is coming along nicely. And here's where we introduce kind of a different color, putting that red on top of the orange, and that just kind of intensifies it. And a lot of these skills that you're learning on today's painting will help some of your other painting processes and painting skills. It will improve them and just make them better. Everything gets better with practice. There's no avoiding it. I did have the thought while I was making this that my left-handed people, I'm right-handed, so I started on that left-hand side and kind of and clockwise worked my way around the canvas. So if you're left-handed, it is actually to your benefit to do the painting backwards. So maybe just scroll to the end of the video, Start there and then work your way backwards. That way you can go from the bottom right-hand corner and go counterclockwise. All right, so here we went back to that light purple. My paint is starting to dry a little bit. I remember this part, so I had to go back and kind of adjust my shade. And again, that's part of art, so feel free to adjust for the variables that you have in front of you each time that you are painting. If you paint outside, the paint dries a little bit quicker. If you add a lot of water, the paint dries a little bit quicker. How you're feeling for the day affects the way that you're painting too. So like I said, it's just important to practice and get comfortable with the process of painting as often as you can. All right, and keep pausing the video and taking your progress photos as needed. All right, so going back to the light blue, we're going to be working in that top right-hand corner. And I think in this one we will be introducing some green, some light green into this area. All right, and again, student grade paint, so I'm applying it a little bit thicker, gives me a nice base to put that light first color on and then go in with the darker shade. And Georgia O'Keeffe's original on this was done in watercolors, so if you want to do this in watercolors, go right ahead. You can kind of put that base of water down first and then move in with your shades of pigment. And again, great practice. All right, and here using some medium purple or even your direct purple, just kind of placing it on there, wiping that brush off, and then going back and softening that into it. This is one of the very therapeutic aspects of the painting process, is just moving paint on the canvas, playing with these different colors. And again, it's great for Georgia O'Keeffe's paintings. I've got a few of her flower paintings that we work on blending, and this one and a few other abstract pieces for working on our blending. Nice variety. All right, and moving into our purple, a little bit darker, kind of going for a medium purple instead of the direct purple. And been using that small pointy brush quite a bit, but if you feel inclined to move up to one of the larger brushes or even having multiple small pointy brushes, one for each color, go right ahead and do that. All right, so moving right along using a light green white with just a touch of that green, and I believe I make mine pretty light on here. I would recommend making yours a touch darker than what I use, just so it shows up a little bit better on your canvas. I think when I painted it, it looked like a super light green, but now that I'm watching it on the video, it's really hard to tell there's a tint in there. And that's sometimes part of the process of painting. All right, so now we're going to grab that green. Again, just kind of put them in a few specific places, lay that on there, wipe off that brush, and then blend it into that base color. And as you do this, if you need to turn the canvas sideways, turn it upside down, prop it up, whatever you need to do to adjust and make it easier for your painting process, go right ahead and do that. All right, and now moving into a little bit of blue. There wasn't a whole lot of green in there. We will use it in one other spot in a moment. And hopefully by now you're starting to get comfortable with just that little amount of pigment on there and carrying it through your base surface. That's kind of one of the main objectives for making this particular video with all its nice light pastel colors. So we laid that kind of purple in. It was almost kind of like an upside down J shape. Now a little bit of blue, just kind of finishing it off. And then just again being very short and choppy with those brush strokes and pulling that color down from that line. And as you get into this painting process, I do want you to kind of prop your painting up, get out of your chair, step about 4 or 5 feet away, and look at your painting from a distance. This is the more of the normal viewing distance for artwork and most things in life, and things tend to look better from a distance. So don't be upset if you like your painting more from that distance than you do 2 feet in front of you. All right, so here moving more with that light green, and again I made mine probably a little bit lighter than I should have, so if yours is a little darker than mine, awesome. You can still keep up and follow along. All right, I'm just going right over those traceable lines. We'll be going over them with the green in just a moment. And here, if you want, I did actually move up to the medium flat brush, and now just kind of using it sideways or using just the tip of the brush instead of switching back to that small pointy brush. That is an option you can try. All right, and then again, wiping off that excess paint, and then that light pressure to just kind of blend and squish that darker color into your base light color. All right, it's coming along nicely. So now we're going to go back to that light orange and making it in there. We're going to place it right on top of the green. There we go. And then again, just going back and softly blending, pushing that into the base. And if you do this painting a couple times and you feel like switching out colors and using different than pastel colors, go right ahead and do that. All right, so still using some of that light green, almost even just the pure white too. This part was a little bit lighter. And here you can even see that I'm grabbing just that direct white and putting it into this particular section. And the more that you paint, you're going to find multiple ways of blending your paint and just kind of finding your groove. There is no one right answer for anything in the art world, and really in life in general, but I can only attest to the art world and the creative process. There's always multiple creative solutions for your objective or your destination. All right, so grabbing some of that light pink, putting it right in on top of that white, almost light green. All right, you guys are doing great. It's coming along nicely. Now we're going to make kind of a light blue for that last section, that middle section. And we're going to put that light blue in there, and then we're going to put some medium blue right on top of it. This is actually one of the more saturated sections of color for this particular painting. And again, just kind of play with the pressure as you're using that medium flat brush and kind of using the edge, the perimeter, either sideways or using the full width of the brush. And then here, grabbing that blue, kind of hanging out on the left-hand side of this shape, and then pulling that in with the bigger brush into that base light blue. You guys have done a great job. I hope you learned a lot with all this blending, and I hope you feel more comfortable as you move into one of your next paintings. And a lot of stuff that you learned here today will make even more sense the next time that you paint. So don't wait too long to do your next painting. Keep building on all these skills you're learning. So thanks again. Oh, we're doing a little bit of that orange. I think just I missed a spot. So feel free to adjust and fix anything that you need to on your painting. And until next time, cheers.
Hey guys, I hope your paintings turned out really nice. I have no doubt that Georgia O'Keeffe would be proud of you. I'm proud of you for painting at home. And it is okay to do this video more than once. You will strengthen those skills and get more and more comfortable with blending and doing some of those subtle transitions. So thanks again for practicing and continuing to evolve your skills. As you're uploading your videos to social media, please tag me at Paint with Lovejoy or hashtag Paint with Lovejoy, or even email them to me. I really like to see your guys' finished results, and then when I post those to social media, it encourages other people to jump in on the painting process as well. So you are a huge help for getting other people to paint and for continuing the success of this channel. So please spread the word. If there's anything you want me to paint in the future, you have any questions or comments, please leave a comment in the comments below, and I do my best to respond to just about every comment on there. Like I said, I appreciate your support. So thanks again for taking time out of your day to hang out with me. Keep on painting, and I will see you for the next painting session. Cheers.